Hi, welcome back to the channel. Michelle, and today we'll be sharing our 6-week homeschool update. So if you're new to my channel, I have a 7th grader this year, a 3rd grader, and a kindergartner. So for this video, I'm going to be sharing my 5-year-old son and my 8-year-old daughter, my kindergarten and 3rd grader, their 6-week update, and then the next video after this will be my 7th grader and family subjects, just to split it up because it'd be one really long video. And really, there's not much to say for my 5-year-old, so he's kind of lumped in with my middle child. So I'm going to start with my 5-year-old. I'm going to turn the camera around, show you his schedule, the things he's been going through and the things he's been enjoying, things that have been working really well. If you're curious, everything has worked really well. I do have videos talking about our schedule this year and videos for curriculum choices. So far, all that has gone really well, and I do like to wait, 6 weeks to kind of reevaluate schedules and curriculum, and so far everything's gone really well. This is my 5-year-old's schedule. Again, I just copy and pasted the pictures, put them on here. So he has finished up Math with Confidence kindergarten and has gone into Dimensions KB. I do get questions of why I don't stick with Math with Confidence, and that's solely based on the reason that I already have Dimensions KB teacher guides from kindergarten all the way to 6th grade at this point. So I already have the materials on hand. I've already taught it once with my oldest. Now I'm going through it a second time with my middle child, and this will be my 3rd time going through Dimensions with my last child. So I'm familiar with the curriculum, which I think really helps when you go to teach it. I also have the materials on hand, so that saves money. So if there comes a point where I think Dimensions isn't working for this particular child, because all my kids are very different, although Dimensions works for my oldest two, may not work for my youngest. I will make that switch when I feel necessary, but I'm not just going to switch it to try something new. I'm going to stick with what I know, what I teach well, and what's working for this particular child. So he has started Dimensions KB, and again, I go from Math with Confidence K to KB, and this is what I do with my middle child, because Dimensions is a little bit ahead of what I consider most math curriculums. KB kind of takes off where Math with Confidence K stopped. I feel like Math with Confidence is a great program, really hands-on approach, gentle introduction to math, but it's also easy. And I want to have the opportunity to challenge my kids. So I want to see how this particular child does with that challenge. And so far, it's gone really well. He hasn't encountered anything that was difficult or over his head yet. So again, that's why I transitioned into the KB. But so far, it's going well, and he's enjoying it. He likes that there's only 2 pages, so this will be a lesson, or we have, obviously the workbook lesson, the textbook that we do together. And then he has the workbook lesson that he does with me. Obviously, at 5, he can't do this independently yet. He can't read the directions or anything like that, but he likes that there's 2 pages per lesson, and he's gotten into that routine. So far, this is going well with him. Next would be handwriting. Again, it's going well. He finished Get Ready for the Code. It's now Explode the Code. I do think this is beneficial for him because he has had some phonics issues in the past in isolating specific letter sounds. So for him, this is really helpful to practice that skill set for reading. He continues to practice his name on a daily basis as well. All about reading, going really well, slow and steady progress. He actually really does enjoy the cards. For the sheets that have a bunch of words, like reviewing for a story, I've gotten to the point where I put a lot of them on a whiteboard just because the tiny lettering is a little difficult for him. He prefers it larger. That's kind of only difference we've really made. But again, this is going well for him. It's worked for all 3 of my kids, and we're just making progress. The only other thing is core knowledge. And again, he's finishing up the kindergarten unit. He started some of that last year in his preschool year. He's finishing the other half of that right now. So the units we've done with core knowledge are Native Americans, seasons and weather, kings and queens. I'm currently working on a unit on Columbus. Does core knowledge give the most inclusive at this age view of history? No, especially when we're talking about Native Americans or Columbus. It's not giving you the full picture, but it's giving a really nice introduction to foundation. So I could obviously add on. We do a Native American unit every November as a homeschool. All my kids do. So this isn't his only exposure to Native American tribes or history or any of that, especially with Columbus too. While we were going through the units, I'm looking for an introduction to explorers, to what sailing was, all these minor things, contextual knowledge things that I plan on building upon every year. So do I expect all of the information at this age? No, but it's good jumping off point. And he really does. I would say core knowledge is probably his favorite thing we do. And it's got different activities with it for kings and queens, all, as well as the other ones. We did sequencing, retelling the story, so a lot of narration, as it's called in other curriculum. So there are those parts to it. There's also review work. I love curriculum that has review built in because I do think that's really important. I love curriculum that has ways to gauge how your child is learning and what they're absorbing. Those are really critical, even at this age, to kind of understand where they are. My goal with core knowledge is contextual knowledge, getting more information to build upon over the years. And that's gone really well. He really does enjoy the units because you do have factual things put in there, but you also have stories. So when we're doing kings and queens, we learn factual information about kings and queens and castles and knights and all those things. But we also read King Midas, Princess and the Pea, different things like that. It's all included in the curriculum completely free. So you're getting different avenues to approach that subject area, which I really like. So that is everything for my 5-year-old. Again, everything's worked really well. Not much to update, just everything we're doing is going well. So next I'm going to talk about my 8-year-old. This is her schedule, and again, nothing's changed. Schedule has gone really well. I will say it took her about 1 to 2 weeks to really adjust to the schedule this year for 2 reasons. One, we introduced new curriculum. The past few years, we've used the same curriculum, just moving on to the next level. So she did have to adjust to new curriculum, new routines, things like that. I do think it's important to give kids time to acclimate themselves to that curriculum, to understand how it works, how you teach it, just the basics and expectations of that curriculum. It takes time for that. Also, this year, you can see she has more than she has in previous year. For 3rd grade, this is an appropriate amount of work that she's doing, and she's fully capable of it, even with her ADHD. I can work breaks into that. I can work around that. Just because she has a specific things that might make things harder doesn't mean she's not capable of it. And I want her to really understand that at a young age. That I do see a lot in these videos about people saying, well, my kid can't do this because of this reason. They can, you just have to make certain accommodations for them. So let's get going. So math, she is, like my other kids, working through dimensions. She's on dimensions 3B. Again, going really well. This is a very mathy kid. She enjoys it. Next would be handwriting. She's doing the Getty Dubé. Again, she likes this. I do think kind of the italic style is a good fit for her. So she's working on that. All About Reading 4, again, going really well. It's really nice once you get to that point where they're fluently reading, chapter books. But I do think it's really important to finish all 4 levels, and I've definitely seen some of the positive parts of that. Opposed to my oldest who did, the 1st level and then went to public school. I'm seeing the benefits in spelling and grammar with her completing all 4 levels. So she's, making her way through that. So something we tried different this year was Lit Studies. We've been using Lit House Learning, and we did Heartwood Hotel, A True Home. And this has worked really well for her. So I did level 0 for her just because she hasn't really had an introduction to writing yet. And I didn't want to overwhelm her because you can see she does have a lot more. She does have multiple literature things she's doing. So this was a really good starting off point. Could she do level 1? I think she could, but I think starting at level 0 was really good. She really enjoyed marking off the pages. It's not too much. Reading a chapter, perfect amount of reading for her. The activities, simple to point. One thing I would say, I was disappointed it didn't have the answers to the questions, unless I'm missing that somewhere. I looked in all the files I had, and I couldn't find the answers to the chapter questions, so it's assuming that the parent is read and familiar with it, which I hadn't previously read this, which obviously it's an easy read, but it would be easier if that was the case, that the answers are already included in there. She liked the cut and paste activities, so I like that they kind of switched it up, the different activities they were doing, and she really did enjoy lap booking. That was one aspect that was really fun for her. You can see I don't have lap book in here. She made her own. And again, this really depends on the kid. My oldest never would have gone for stuff like this. This would be busy work, boring to her. But my middle child, my 8-year-old, loves this kind of stuff. So sometimes it's just dependent on the child. So she finished up this, went really well. So we are continuing on with the next one. So she started it this week because last week we were off school. This is her first week back. She decided to continue the story because she really enjoyed the first one. She wants to read the second one. So I purchased, again, the Lit House Learning Level 0. And this is her lab book she's getting ready to do. Again, same format. I like that it's all formatted the same. So she's familiar with how things work. She's familiar with expectations of what the curriculum is going to want from her. And it does have that more fun aspect of lab booking. But again, it's dependent on the child. So we will continue to do Lit House studies throughout the year, and that's worked really well for her. So next, Michael Clay Thompson. Again, nothing new with that. We're just continuing on. She's getting really good with sentence analysis. So again, breaking down parts of speech, simple compound sentence, prepositional phrases, things like that. She understands what those things are. And we are currently working our way through STEMs, which is what building language is at this level. So we're just continuing on, but I do think it's beneficial. So you can see she has multiple components of language arts this year, but each serves a purpose. I'm not giving her busy work or things just to do. Everything serves a purpose for her. All about spelling, we started this year. Again, she's doing really well with it. Obviously, level 1 is pretty easy. We're looking at pretty simple. So we are right here. So you can see she's not doing any complicated spelling at this point, and because she's done almost all 4 levels all about reading now, she's really good at phonetically spelling. We haven't got into a lot of the rules, although we did get into the silent E rule, and she remembered that from all about reading. So again, I know they say to, do them at the same time, but for this particular child, separating them and going back and doing spelling once reading was well established has worked better for her. Again, it's dependent on the child. You kind of figure out what works for you, but she remembers the rules from reading, and she's not frustrated or upset with learning to read and learning how to spell at the same time. But she's so far really good speller, and I think it is large part due to all about reading. So she's doing history and science separate. So this year we did split it up. In the past, my kids combined for history and science, but this year my 7th grader is just, her material, content, stamina are completely different than what's expected of my 8-year-old. So I split them off. So my 7th grader is doing her own history and science, and my 8-year-old is doing her own history and science. So let's talk about what we're doing for that. So for science, my 8-year-old has always combined in the past with core knowledge with my oldest, and it's always aimed at my oldest grade level. So she's been doing 3rd, 4th, 5th grade science the last few years. So she's familiar with a lot of the concepts. So I went with this one. I do love Blair Lee's content, the things I've used in the past. I think it's really well put together. I love that she knows what she's talking about, and it's really hands-on. This is a different approach because with core knowledge, it's more academically based. You have different demonstrations you do, but it's more like textbook learning. Well, this is a lot more hands-on. The reading is a lot later. I will say it's really easy for her. I know it says grades 1 through 4, and technically she'd be in 3rd, but because of her exposure with core knowledge in the past, she knows the majority of the information we've covered so far. So you can see we are here. So we covered the Earth's spheres. One thing was really cool that we hadn't talked about in the past was a timeline of the Earth, which she really enjoyed. Again, that hands-on aspect of science. We took a giant sheet of paper and she got to label the timeline and kind of when living things showed up on that timeline. And I do think that is helpful to kind of see it like that. But so far it's gone really good. And she knew all the spheres and everything that we talked about. So this kind of review, we made the inside of a bottle, that type of thing. So she's familiar with those, but taking it from different perspective or a view that we haven't done in the past. So Pangea, that was really fun. Putting the puzzle together. She enjoyed modeling the plate tectonics. We took peanut butter and graham crackers and kind of showed that. So yes, we have talked about earthquakes, plate tectonics in the past, but this is more of a hands-on approach to it. And we did the experiment, which we actually did in core knowledge as well, where they have to build a structure of toothpicks and marshmallows and simulate an earthquake to see how well their structure is made. The only difference with this is the bottom was jello, while in core knowledge it was a base of some sort. But she remembers those things. So it's pulling back, reviewing information. But so far we have not covered anything that we haven't covered previously in core knowledge. So we'll continue to see if that's the case or if we get across some different things. I know this entire year will be Earth science, so we'll see if we cover some things more in depth, but she really does like the hands-on approach, and so far we both really enjoyed it. So for history, we are doing Curiosity Chronicles Ancients, and this is my first time doing Ancients. The kids have done Curiosity Chronicles Middle Ages and Early Modern in the past. So again, all of it's electronic PDFs, so I just print in 6-week increments, but again, she's really enjoying it. One of the hands-on activities was to build a city. And again, this is something we've talked about in core knowledge as well. And you had a list of things you had to include, like place a grocery store or market, water, how your city gets water, and things like that. We did the exact same thing in core knowledge in the past in their science unit. So she was already familiar with all that, but she enjoys that kind of stuff. So like I said, I print it in 6 to 7 week increments depending on how long before our next break, but she enjoyed doing that, and she's enjoying the lab booking. Again, this is a kid that enjoys that type of thing. My oldest would not want to do any of this, but I do think it is cool for her to have something to kind of look back on, and it's good review as well. So she is enjoying that aspect. I'm not having her do the math work or the coloring pages because, one, she does enough coloring. 2, the map work I don't really think is going to stick for her. The ancient maps, I'm not going to force her to memorize or do any of that. This is what kind of cuneiform she was writing messages to me and things like that. So she enjoys the cutting and the pasting. So the only other thing is, besides group subjects, which will be in the next video, is Spanish. We are working our way through Song School Spanish. Again, what we've been doing for that is she has review cards that she goes through, flashcards that she makes herself, because every chapter, as you can see here, has vocabulary. And we go through those twice a week. As you can see, Spanish is once a week. So we go through the flashcards. She will review them another time in the week. And then we will do the songs that go with the vocabulary, and then we'll do the worksheets. I don't have her write in the book, so I can use it in the future for other kids. So I just make copies of this, and she will do that. But she really does enjoy the games. So in the teacher guide, there's a lot of different, every chapter has extra activities you can do. So for this one, she had to create a map, and I had asked her questions, using the vocabulary we learned. We played Battleship. We played a memory game. So there's a lot of fun hands-on activities, and all the printables are, in the back for you to use. We played a really good game where we had to roll the dice, and she had to find which location it was using the verb and the location. So again, there's a lot of options in here if you use the teacher guide. So usually we'll spend one day doing the vocabulary flashcards and the songs and the worksheet pages, and then the second day we will do vocab review with the flashcards and then the game. So that is everything. She does do art and social justice, but I'll talk about that in the next video. But you can see this is a lot, but she's fully capable of doing this. Even with ADHD and breaks, she takes about the same amount of time my 7th grader takes for work, but that's just because she has to have more breaks through that and figuring out when those breaks work best for her. So usually she will pick what she does first. Although this is laid out a certain way, she doesn't have to follow it to the T. She usually starts with her Lit House studies. That's her favorite, and then she'll go into math and then handwriting. She kind of figures out her own groove and how things work, but having a visual of this is the expectation, this is what you're supposed to do. And again, after that second week, she was flying with it, and it's great. But that adjustment period, it does take kids time to adjust to new things, new curriculum, expectations. Give them that time. I see so much on these channels where they, instantly flip something in the first couple of weeks because it's not working. You got to give your kids time to adjust. So everything's gone really well for her. So that is the update from my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old, my kindergarten and 3rd grader. Like I said, schedule went great. curriculum went great. I'm pretty choosy with the things I use. I'm pretty intentional on the schedules I create, and I'm really mindful of what that child can do. That doesn't mean I can't challenge or push that child. Like I said with my 8-year-old, things were different this year. She was fully capable of doing it. She rose to the expectations, and she's really enjoying the things she's doing. So really getting to know your kids and not being scared of pushback or things not working out exactly how you plan them to, because I know it's easy for me to come on here and say, well, everything worked great. And I know that's not the norm, but I do put a lot of intention into the things I choose and the schedules I make and the kids in front of me. So that's kind of, I think, why it's different for me than a lot of what you see on different channels, the constant curriculum swapping or leaving things out. I'm very intentional and purposeful with how I organize and plan and implement the things in my homeschool. So that I think is helpful for people to know that you can make a schedule, you can make a plan and stick to it, and it worked really well. Everything's gone great this last 6 weeks. We are just continuing on the stuff I've been talking about for the next, I believe our next chunk is 6 weeks as well. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about for my 5 or 8-year-old, let me know in the comments down below. If not, thank you for watching.